Now this is actually nothing fancier than Windows Notepad. For some reason I can't get the window to show here. Open Broadcaster is behaving strangely, but you can see my cursor there. So this is just a text editor. That's all it is. And you can use any text editor to code, actually. The issue is more one of compiling code if you have to. The thing is to turn a text file into an HTML file, all you have to do is change the file suffix. So, .txt becomes .html at the end of the file name. And then it will be readable by a web browser. So then the question is, what do we code? I'm going to code one of the simplest web pages imaginable without doing another hello world here. So we do doc type HTML. It opens the web page, specifies to the web browser that this is a web page. HTML, it's an open tag specifying language. The head, which gives the web page its basic specifications. I'm going to skimp on those here. Not going to use a style sheet or anything, but the character set is necessary. Title, HTML demo, close the tag. Like a lot of computer languages, you have to open and close tags. So again, I have to close the head here. To switch to the body comes next. And we'll say this is what HTML looks like. But I'm going to go one further. Even though I don't have a style sheet, I can still style this page. So I will make this text larger by making it a heading. So I open a heading 1 tag here, which is the largest type of heading in HTML. Then I close it over here. Then to do a return, this will not work. Of course, I'm probably preaching to the converted here, because this is a language that probably more people know than any other. But you have to put in a BR for break to indicate a carriage return, and for a double space you have to put in 2 of them, of course. So then we put in the web link to demonstrate the most basic capability of HTML. So HTTP, this will be a web link, nothing fancy, just Google, right? Most popular website in the world. But of course, this will not show up because all I've done is open a link tag. So visit Google to see if this link works. And then I close the tag like this. The reason it's A is that for links you start with an A. And href indicates where we're linking to. Then I close the body. Made a basic mistake there. In HTML, close tags always start with a slash. And then we also close the HTML. Now I could save this as text, but it wouldn't read as anything but text. So I have to save it as visit Google, let's call it. Let's see if this capture is going to work. No, my capture is not working. Okay. We will capture the correct window here. There we go. So, visit Google.html, not txt. Let's just save it to the desktop because all we're going to do is open it as a file, not as a web page. I'm not going to put it on a web server. Now that we're in Firefox, new tab, and we will open a file. The file will be that basically web page, an HTML file, which makes it a web page. This is what HTML looks like in heading 1. And there's our web link. So if I click on the link, it takes us to Google. And that's how HTML works. And there's no reason that it has to be on a web server. It can just be a file. And it's likely that some of the original developers of HTML envisioned it being used this way. Much like HyperCard. Actually, HyperCard, if you've ever heard of that, was a presentation software that was available from Apple that, in essence, was a competitor to PowerPoint. And this was one of the things you could put in a HyperCard stack, as it was called. Basically a link to take you to a different page. So it was good for making, you could say, proto-wikis, long before there were wikis. But actually, we'll jump over that. We'll go to the Wikipedia page on that, just for fun. Because that's some interesting history. Okay, HyperCard by Bill Atkinson, who was a pretty major software developer from Apple back in the old days. Retired in 1990. Gives you an idea of how long ago this was. Although actually he was retiring from Apple, not from his whole career in programming and photography. Maybe we can find a screenshot somewhere. Problem with very old Mac software is that it's kind of hard to find a good screenshot. The manual, maybe? Another PDF file, and notice that this... I'm trying to get the HTTP to display, but the point is that this is a website. Alright, so, HyperCard. I think I had this manual back in the day on paper. Where are those screenshots? Yeah, so you can have buttons and the whole works. It was more graphical, user interface oriented, and arguably more attractive than the early HTML web pages. Actually. And people say, you can develop software this way, which you sort of could, but it was rather cumbersome. You could develop presentations, though. So it was more of a PowerPoint competitor than it was anything else. It was more interactive than PowerPoint. So in any case, you can load PDFs, you can load HTML files, you can also load image files. I'll load one of those, if I can find one. So there's a photo. Again, it's only a file, but again, it illustrates how a modern web browser can load almost any file or any content, which is really the point of how the internet works today. It's not just HTML files, but it's just the ability to put any content on the web that you desire. But what my point was is that one of the most important limits is that Firefox and other web browsers will not load PHP files natively. Rather, they'll only load them from a web server. So that's one of the most important uses of MAMP, to test your PHP files before you deploy them. So I will cover that next.